at least in our, I mean, for us, it seems that that would be the most equitable way to go. If they don't like it, they don't have to accept it. This is just, again, a proposal, so.
Mayor, I find it, if I understood Tricia right, I find it rather interesting that they put out these letters to various communities and they got more than 10 back. In other words, they're getting more back than they expected, is what I'm understanding?
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember O'Laughlin, that is correct. I believe word gets out and people submit proposals when they hear about it.
Leads me to believe that some other cities are having people in the same positions our people are in, are not finding enough to keep busy. So here's an opportunity for them to jump on the bandwagon and make some money for their people that are helping another community.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that kind of interesting, considering the comments we've made here about hiring people and using people on staff, etc.
I talked to an inspector who lives on across the highway. He got laid off at Prior Lake, and he's trying to get the job there. He's bidding on it. He doesn't have a job.
Just as a contractor, an individual?
Yeah, it'd be a good job for him, he said. He get 3 little cities himself.
Yeah. So a private contractor, he's hanging out his shingle, he wants to go, yeah, well, that makes sense.
I don't know. I don't think he could afford the insurance. That's the problem, something like that.
Yeah. And when you say you calculated the hourly rate at 48 and change, I think is what it was, and this, I would think that the 75 an hour then justifies the overhead. Did you consider that we put our inspector in an office and we give him all of the, you know, heat and light and all that sort of thing? That was probably not calculated into that. So I'm thinking that it's appropriate to charge, obviously, you know, you're saying 48, but the city of Belle Plaine is supporting that person. You know, it's not just wages and benefits, but it's also other things, so, and the car. And are you talking about a mileage fee too, just by the mile?
No.
Or just a flat 75
Just a
bucks an hour?
flat 75.
Does that include travel time from Belle Plaine to
Correct.
Henderson? Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, council, what direction do we want to give staff on this one?
I'd like to make a motion that we use option 3 as our proposal to the city of Henderson.
Second.
Motion Lang, second Underfirth. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, this passes unanimously. Good work. Thank you. Okay, 8.4, reading of ordinance 09-06, amending the zoning ordinance by amending the official zoning map to rezone property to maintain consistency with the comprehensive plan's future land use map. Ms. Rosenfeld?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. As it was discussed at the previous council meeting regarding the proposed zoning changes to implement the comp plan, if you recall, the action was tabled and brought to a workshop. It was discussed at a workshop last week. With minimal discussion, it was recommended to bring back to the meeting tonight for action. So staff looks to the council for action this evening.
Okay. Thank you. As a courtesy to Mr. Schmidt, I'm going to kind of go very briefly through what we discussed at that meeting. Of course, this is not a public hearing, so. But we had talked about, there were 2 people that had come to us, you and another gentleman, Mr. Townsend. And your concerns, essentially, how we interpreted your concerns were that you were thinking that when the rezone comes through, that your taxes are going to change, the structure of your taxes are going to change because of the different designation of your land. Am I right? Is that basically the simple? Yeah. Right. And Ms. Rosenfeld, we discussed this in the sense that, and we came to the conclusion that because of the use of the land, the owners of the land are going to be taxed at that rate until, and Mr. Where did Mr. Vols go? The one guy that should be here. Did he leave?
Bathroom.
Oh. Okay, Mr. Duncan, maybe you can help us with this too. So basically, we came to the conclusion, Mr. Schmidt, that I won't discuss Mr. Townsend's property, we'll just discuss yours, but basically it came down the same way, and that is that we felt like even with the rezone, you're not going to get taxed at a higher rate because of the use of the land rather than, am I right?
Mr. Mayor, I can read this statement again if you'd like
Sure.
from the assessor that I received. I don't want to try to clarify what he's indicating. I'd rather just read
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
right from his email. This is from the county assessor. He indicated that the classification of property which affects the tax rate is determined by the use of the property. If there is a clear use, zoning would not affect the classification. If there is no clear use, we look to zoning to determine what the most likely use might be. If a property has no clear use and it is zoned residential, and that zoning changes to commercial, the classification would likely change to commercial. For the valuation is determined based on the highest and best use. For instance, if a property is 100% tilled farmland, it would be classified agricultural. If that same parcel is zoned commercial, it may be determined that the highest and best use would be to develop the property commercially. In that case, the property would be valued as vacant commercial land, which may command higher value than ag land.
But as it's being used as ag land, does it maintain that value? I mean, because it is clearly being used as ag land in your case, right? You're planting beans on it, aren't you?
Let me say something.
Sure.
It's ag homes, is that homestead, does that mean homestead, HSTD?
Yeah.
Classification, ag,
Ag homestead, yep.
Tricia just read that if it changes from ag to commercial, that it would be taxed as commercial, which would be higher. Is that what you just read?
Yeah, but go back, you also read if it's got a clear
The last
use,
sentence she read.
but the highest use of it. So essentially what you're saying is are we talking about Mr. Schmidt's fears being accurate?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, my understanding was of what she just read. If it remains residential, zoned residential, and it's used as ag, it will be classified as ag. If it is zoned commercial, it will be raised to ag commercial,
Which is higher.
which is
Ag
higher.
commercial.
Basically, what is it, undeveloped?
But it's not,
commercial.
it's not residential, no, it's ag.
It's,
Right.
right, but I mean, we're zoned, it's being zoned to residential, so
No.
the classification is not gonna change, according to that letter.
That's the way I understand it.
Yeah.
May I speak?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
First of all, I did give 2 pages of the proposed tax, property tax for 2010 to each of